There is a lot of talk about becoming a millionaire. There are a lot of books about it, plus a lot of videos about it. I've even created videos about it. I've talked about how others have become millionaires, their steps to do that, plus my own steps for me becoming a millionaire. So what is all of the hype about $1 million? Is it really so special? In today's video, you're going to learn what it really means to become a millionaire. Plus, we are going to talk about some very interesting statistics about millionaires. And then we will talk about how you can actually become a millionaire. And then we'll decide if $1 million is really enough or not. I am Tiffany Thomas with WealthyTiffany.com. And like I said, I became a millionaire and became financially free. So if you're looking to do one or both of those things, make sure and hit that like button and hit the subscribe button, and we're going to dive right in. What does it mean to actually be a millionaire? It means that your net worth is $1 million. And what is net worth? Net worth is when you take all of your assets, everything you own, and you subtract out all of your liabilities, everything that you owe. For example, if you own a home and a car, and then you have money in your savings, you would take the value of your home, the value of your car, and then add in the amount that is in your savings. That would be all of your assets. And then you would subtract out if you had a mortgage loan and a car loan, and then any other debts that you have. And then that would be your net worth. And if you have more questions about net worth, I have a specific video about that. I'll leave a link above and below. You can check that out later on. So when we are talking about millionaires, we are talking about those with a net worth of $1 million, not just those that make $1 million or have made $1 million. Because a lot of the time when people actually make a lot of money, they are spending a lot of that money. So they don't actually have that $1 million. And what is so special about that $1 million number? $1 million is a nice round number. And it's also an easy number to work toward instead of $900,052 or something like that. It's just $1 million. And once you hit that $1 million mark, then that pushes you into the 7-figure category instead of the 6-figure category. And when you are in that 7-figure category, then you are getting closer to the multi-millionaire status or even that billionaire status. It's that benchmark number that will push you up into that 7-figure category and then help you continue to build your wealth. And let's talk about some really interesting statistics about millionaires. There are about 22 million millionaires in the United States, and 8.8% of US adults are millionaires. And I thought this statistic was pretty interesting. It is 33% of US millionaires are women. I actually thought that would have been lower, but I'm glad that it is at least 33%. I would love to see it even higher. So for all of you women out there watching this video, let's build our wealth and increase that statistic. Also, having $1 million puts you in the top 10% of wealth in the United States. Not the 1%, but the 10%. And then there are about 56.1 million millionaires globally, a 10.2% increase from 2019. So we are definitely increasing our wealth over time, which is a good thing because inflation is also increasing over time. And I am curious to know, comment below and tell me if you are going to become a millionaire or if you already have. And noticing that there is just over 8% of millionaires in the United States that are adults, that is a pretty small percentage. A lot of people talk about how it's not that hard to become a millionaire and $1 million isn't that much anymore. But yeah, only 8% of adults are millionaires. So I feel like that is still a pretty good achievement when you have reached that millionaire status. And now let's talk about some different statistics in relation to age and millionaires. The world's 100 richest individuals earned their first million at age 37. On average. So if you are 25 years old thinking, I haven't reached my first million, you are not alone. The average age has been 37. And even if you are older than that, it is not too late to get started. We can always start investing our money today. And the average millionaire is 57 years old. So even though you may see a lot of videos about people becoming millionaires in their 20s, that is not the norm. It is not common. The average age is 57. So it is a little bit older. It is not extremely young. And then let's talk about education in regards to becoming a millionaire. 88% of surveyed millionaires graduated from college. that is a pretty high percentage for millionaires. So once again, if you are seeing all of these videos, I mean, I see these videos all the time, so I'm guessing you've seen some too, but it's a lot of younger people that are becoming millionaires, and they are saying that they have dropped out of college and started their online business and became an overnight millionaire. But we aren't really seeing a lot of videos about those who have worked hard, who went to college and increased their income over their career and then became a millionaire. It just doesn't sound nearly as exciting, but that is more of the norm. It takes a long time usually to become a millionaire, to build up our wealth. And if we have more education, then the more likely we are to become millionaires. And I do realize the world is changing, so it may not be that formal education that we need, but we still need to be educating ourselves and learning new skills and developing those, and then continuing to improve over time. And then 62% of surveyed millionaires graduated from public or state schools. Just 8% said they attended prestigious private schools, which goes to show that we don't need to be spending a ton of money going to a private school. Of course, there are certain degrees or certain career paths that will mean you get a higher paying job if you do that. But for the majority, we can go to the community colleges, which are less expensive, or the public or state schools, which don't cost as much money, but we still get a good education. And then 52% of surveyed millionaires earned a master's degree or higher. So just over half do have that higher education. This is far more than the 12% of the general US adult population that has earned above an undergraduate degree. So if we are looking at the US as a whole, only 12% have received a higher degree. But if we are just looking at the millionaires, 52%, just over half, have received that higher degree, which goes to show more education cannot hurt as long as you are not going into a ton of debt and then not being able to pay that debt off because it wasn't worth it because you aren't able to make enough to pay that school loan off. So the lesson learned here, let's get as much education as possible, but let's also be smart about our education and not pay a ton of money for that when it is not necessary. I know for me personally, I didn't spend a ton of money going to college. I went to a school that had a good business program, but it wasn't a top business school. But nonetheless, I was able to get a great job. And then I also did my master's degree through Western Governors, which is all online. So it worked great because at the time I was working my full-time job, my 9-to-5 job. So I was able to do school before and after work and on Saturdays. But it was not that expensive to attend Western Governors. It was a lot less than a lot of the universities that were around me. And when I did get that degree, I ended up getting a promotion at work, so that increased my income. But like I mentioned before, it's not necessarily that we have to go to a university. We can definitely do some courses online and get education that way. Because if we want to focus in on something really specific, then we may not need all of the other courses that go along with getting a degree at a formal university. So do what works best for you. And I do want to highlight a couple of gender statistics. The average age for women to have $1 million set aside for retirement is age 58 and a half. The average age for men to have 1 million set aside for retirement is 59.3. So I was pretty excited to see that females are a little bit better than males in this regard. They are able to have that 1 million set aside at just a little bit of an earlier age. So I like that statistic. Well done, women, because that has definitely not always been the case. And let's move to statistics about location and millionaires. New Jersey has the highest percentage of millionaire households of any state. And then the second state is Maryland, then Connecticut, then Massachusetts, then Hawaii. And that's not to say if you don't live in one of those states, you will not become a millionaire, because I live in Utah. That is definitely not one of those states, and I was able to become a millionaire. But I thought it was just interesting to see where the highest percentage of millionaires were in the US. And then looking globally, the US, China, Japan, Germany, and the United Kingdom are the 5 countries with the most millionaires. Comment below and tell me if you are in one of those countries. And then just a couple more interesting statistics. Is a millionaire in the top 1% of wealth in the US? No, a millionaire isn't in the top 1% of wealth in the US. To be in the top 1%, you would need to have a net worth of over $11 million. To be in the top 10%, however, you need a net worth of $1.22 million, which means most millionaires are in this range rather than in the 1%. So if you are looking to be in the top 1% of wealth in the US, you are going to need at least 11 million for your net worth. And then if you are wondering what the total percentage in the entire world of millionaires is, it is 1.1%. This adds up to about 56 million people. And then if you are wondering, well, which profession should I go into? The profession that has the most millionaires is the finance and investment profession. And in fact, it also has the most billionaires, 371 to be precise. But just because finance and investment is the top profession, it doesn't mean you have to go into that profession to become a millionaire. I was honestly doing marketing before I started my own business and helping people become better with their finances. And I also invest in real estate. So there are a number of different options out there for you to become a millionaire. And since there are so many options out there, let's talk about how you can actually become a millionaire. Like I mentioned, I like investing in real estate and in the stock market. So that is one way that can help you to become a millionaire. And if you are wondering how I was able to invest in real estate, I have a video for you about that. I'll leave a link above and below. But if you have no desire to get started in real estate, you can definitely keep it simple and just invest in the stock market. I want to show you an example on how you can actually reach $1 million by investing in the stock market. If you are age 20 and you invest $200 every single month for 45 years, you will become a millionaire. And this is with an 8% return. So the reason I chose 8% is because that is the average return for the past 30 years for the US stock market. And actually it's a little bit over 8%, so I was pretty conservative and just kept it at a flat 8%. And since it is for the US stock market, I personally like investing in the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund or ETF. And this means you are invested in a whole bunch of different stocks that just follow the US stock market. So it's a very easy investment to invest in. And if you want to know more about that fund, I have a video about that. I'll leave a link above and below. But essentially, if you are investing in the US stock market $200 every month, which means $100 from each paycheck, then you will become a millionaire. And yes, that will be at age 65. So if you want to become a millionaire even earlier, then you can invest even more money. And a lot of young people may be thinking, $200, that's a lot of money. But when you look at this graph, you can see the compound interest that has been working for you. The earlier you invest your money, the more money you are going to make because of compound interest. In the graph, you can see that the green color is the compound interest. So this is your interest earning interest. This isn't money that you have put into the account. The blue color is the amount that you have put into your account. So you can see in the beginning, it's a lot more blue color, and then over time, it becomes more of the green color, more of the compound interest. Which means if we are investing as soon as we can, then over time, we are going to be able to build our wealth astronomically. And if you are starting later in life, then definitely put more money in so that you can take advantage of the compound interest. And if you haven't really started investing, or maybe you just have a 401k, I have a video that I created, a very simple way to get started investing in the stock market. I'll leave a link to that above and below. But we really need to stay focused and stay consistent with our investments so that that can grow over time to $1 million and beyond. Plus, once we have made that first million, it gets easier to make that second million and that third and then so on because of compound interest and because we have learned the finance knowledge that we need to invest our money. So while getting to $1 million may seem daunting or overwhelming, keep at it. And once you reach that, then you can continue on and it will be easier and easier to get to that next million and so on. All right, here's the question. Is $1 million enough? A lot of people say that $1 million is nowhere near enough, that we need 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, whatever it might be. That because of inflation, there is no way we could live off a net worth of $1 million. But then there are other people who are saying you can lower your expenses. You don't need to be so extravagant and spend a ton of money. So $1 million would be fine. And honestly, it really depends on your own circumstances. Some people may be able to live off $1 million. That is going to be just fine for them. They live in a lower cost living area and they don't have high expenses. And then for other people, $1 million won't be enough. So you need to figure out what is going to work for you, and then work toward that goal. And if you're not sure how much you're going to need in order to retire, I like using the 4% rule, and I do go into more detail in another video. I'll leave a link above and below. But essentially, if you take your annual expenses and multiply that by the number 25, that is going to give you the amount you're going to need to have invested in order to retire. And that would be living off 4% of that portfolio value and not running out of money in retirement. And the reason I like using the 4% rule is because I retired early. So some people are saying you can withdraw even more than 4%. So if you're retiring later, then that could be the case. But for those of us that want to retire early, I like using the 4% rule. And to give you an example, if your annual expenses are $40,000, you multiply that by the number 25, you are going to get $1 million. So then $1 million would be enough for you to live off of. Comment below and tell me if you've already figured out how much you are going to need to live off of. As always, remember to keep investing your money. Invest as much as possible, as soon as possible, so that you can become financially free, whether that is accumulating a net worth of $1 million or accumulating a net worth of $5 million, or maybe just $40,000. Who knows? Comment below and tell me, is $1 million enough? And if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and share it with someone else who would like to hear this information. And hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit that little bell to get notified on when I post new videos. And if you want to see even more content from me, check out the videos on the side of the screen. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.